All this clapping is not being known until right now.
Ma'am, but please don't, because I'm gonna have to have anybody else. Let me go into this morning. Anybody else that speaks out, please, I might have to have you removed, please, because we need to get through this. And I'm sorry, but we gotta get through this, please. Joey, go ahead.
We were at the point where you said your solution and what we talked about, how we could work this out, and obey the ordinance, and you work together to get this possibility.
All we have is what's in the ordinance and what's in the policies on what to do when we get a dog. That's what we got to follow. If that needs to be changed, then that needs to be changed.
Mayor, what's your position?
Public wants it different, then that needs to be changed. But right now, we're supposed to do what's there, and it's not getting done.
Okay. All
Why
right.
is
I
it
would
not getting done?
We don't have room at the plant.
I'd like to address that, and this is my take on it. No, well, she is a director. She's all right. Let me say this, and she is a director. She is on staff, and so I will let her speak to it. But let me say this: as a mayor, number one, from the get-go, and for the years in the previous administration, I don't think it was also. I think it was also handled the same way. So. This isn't something new that it's being handled.
What do you got to say?
Because
What am I gonna say?
Because I
What
don't
am I
want
gonna
you.
say?
I don't know. But anyway, all I'm saying is I think with what we have, and as many people in this town love their animals, and please don't nobody clap. Many people love their animals. I personally don't have a problem with the way it's being handled. These dogs are being vetted to people. They're being trying to find homes. The ordinance does need to be changed. Yes, that's what instead of up here talking about it, we need to change our ordinance. That's what we need to do. And that's what we will do. I mean, yeah, we've been set the precedent to how we've been handling it as far as getting dogs, keeping them, vetting them, getting them cleaned up, getting their shots, and then finding a home for them. Yeah, that we do need to have a new time frame on it. 7 days is too quick, 6 months is too long for us to find them a home. I agree with those things, but let's sit down as a group and do that. Now, as far as him being able to do his job, they have keys to that. They can take and put those dogs inside of a pen. I don't want to get into a thing and get it. This is the budget, and we're talking about concessions. We're not going to. I mean, the cost for us right now, and I don't have a problem with it. By the time we take donations and what our cost is to have the part-time people see to that pound down there, Dee Dee is not turning in any time anymore to run that pound. She's done a wonderful job with it. By the time we offset that with our donations, we're talking about $15,000 to take care of the animal control, which is very cheap for our town. And I think that's something that we should, hey, let's don't make that an issue. Let's don't make a $15,000 thing be an issue for us not to adopt our budget.
20,000 last week, 15 this week. Now,
did you take into consideration the donations?
but we can't listen, this is my point. We have an ordinance in place.
Okay.
A shelter is usually donations and free time. I'm not up on the shelter situation, but that's how most of them are, donations and free time, as far as I understand. Now, if I'm looking at lower utility rates, lower percentage of cost to the citizen on anything that I can get money out of, basically. And that's one thing, because he said he'd take it for nothing, and he would take care of it. Now, he could get it done as far as whatever part of it you don't like, or we can work on the concession, that's it. But I want the dogs, him to be able to take care of that and get his job done instead of having to deal with it, blah, 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 with Neil. Neil gets a dog, and he's got to go down there and throw it into the fence. There's just things that can be changed, and he's willing to do it for no cost to the citizens. Citizens.
Okay, please, Dee Dee, would you like to address that?
Yes, I would. I sure would. I've worked for the city for 18 years, a lot longer than Joey and you.
Well, I didn't ever work for the city. I didn't work for the city. And please, if you would, I would like to do this civil, Dee Dee. I have not discussed that harshly with you.
You have not asked me one question and have never set foot in that dog pound.
I didn't need to. I'm not into that, because I've discussed that. This is it, Dee Dee. This is what it's about.
No. My turn.
Wait.
Go ahead, I'm gonna
please
say another
Please
word.
let her speak.
I will,
Okay,
I
then you
will.
can
back
speak.
in, I'm gonna start at the beginning. In January of 2016, I had a calling to go to that pound. I hadn't been there in the 15 years I worked for the city. And I'm gonna cry because I always do. I went down there and I didn't know what was pulling me there. And I went, and I've got pictures of what I found down there, and it was horrific. You don't know that. You hadn't seen the pictures, and I hadn't shown any of y'all that. The condition I found the dogs in, the stench, everything that went with it. And it was being run by the Vidalia Police Department. And granted, for Joey, there's different ones, you know, different elected officials. It's not always been Joey. So, it horrified me, what I found. I'm not going into that now. And I went to the mayor at that time, Mayor Copeland, and I told him what I found, and his face just went white as a sheet. And he said, I need to see it. And at that time, we had our brand new complex. The city was just booming, you know, with new stuff everywhere. And when he saw this, and it belonged to the city, he was ashamed. And I was ashamed. I was horrified at the dogs. I need water. The fact that they couldn't, hadn't been fed in 6 days, and all the things that happened then. And so, thank you. The mayor said at that minute, when he found it, this can't be happening. This is like a dungeon. We can't have this, and we're growing and doing so well in everything else. And he called Chief Arthur Lewis at that time and told him, I want a new facility. I want heat and air and water, hot water, to clean these kennels for this bacteria that's been here 40 years. It was that old, and we need something done. And so within a week, my boss, Mark Moros, for the utility department, Jake Moros Carpenter, and I went to the Natchez Humane Society. We viewed their shelter, how things were built, the do's and don'ts, and we're so tiny. They're giant compared to us, and that's where we got how the thing was built, you know, where we got the kennels and so forth and so on, to keep things sanitary, easy, and fast. So, it got built. We opened up in February of 2017. It's a 7-day-a-week job for me. Yes, I got overtime, and that overtime was strictly when I was cleaning kennels. And I asked for help, and I asked the mayor and Bill, and we talked about it, and we ended up, just take me out of it completely. I don't need the money. I worked a year, 7 days a week, Christmas, Thanksgiving, away from my family, dealing and trying to help those dogs for nothing. And I'll keep doing it for nothing. I don't want anything. But it's going to have to be done. And this is what I brought to show y'all. We just got inspected. You asked if I was certified. I'm not certified. Now, the animal control officer, I don't know what he's certified to be. He's certified to do that tranquilizer gun. For real, he has to go through Louisiana Animal Control Association to use those drugs for tranquilizer. I know he's certified for that. He is. I don't know what else. I don't know what he's certified in. If there's an animal control certification, I don't know. But I had the Louisiana Animal Control Authority come down, and they inspected our building. And it has to be inspected at least twice a year, and it's rigorous. This is the book if the police department took over. This is not the spray it out with a hose and leave. This is the guidelines that you have to follow. The guidelines for standards of care in animal shelters. This is the law. And we do that, and we pass with flying colors. I've never been so proud. And you have to fill out this emergency plan for all those animals. If we get a flood or we get anything, we got to have somewhere for however many dogs to go. I've got that. I've got the email where we passed, she hadn't sent my certificate yet. This is the animal control inspection form. It's hell. It's a lot. She looked for dog hair behind the dryer. I mean, if you come to my house, please don't look behind my dryer. And, you know, I get money in, I deposited over $8,000 to go back into the funds, and I used a book here from City Hall, the general fund, receipts to everybody. I do everything by the book. It's a whole lot more to it. Joey don't want it. I know he might think he wants it, but
I never said I wanted it.
He was trying to work a solution, is
And
what he
I
was
love
wanting
the
to do.
police department. I don't want people to think. They work hard, they're awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Last night, we had a benchmark thing happen. We had an animal cruelty case, and it was 6 dogs, and one was dead from starvation. The others were horrible. We still have 3 of those. And the police showed up, they charged the guy, and I carry this much with me all the time. I'm just nut. I saw all yours and I thought, it's okay. But I had gone there that day. I took pictures of the dead dog, the chain, everything. And that guy wanted a trial and wanted to, you know, say he wasn't guilty. And along with the police department, we worked fine together. I showed, or Miss Ann Siddle went and took my papers with my detailed pictures and stuff to that guy and his lawyer, and they looked by about the 3rd page and said, no contest. He got fined, he got all kinds of stuff done to him, and it was awesome because it's animal cruelty. And
Right.
you know, and I'm proud of our police department. I don't have trouble with that. We've never said we won't take a dog. Never have we. This is Ann Hardy, she works there. We may complain that we're full, but we have never not taken a dog. We'll take them. We'll take them and take them and take them and keep buying cameras if we have to. And yes, I've had one there a long time, and I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to kill him. He is healthy. He's been on the radio. We went to the radio show last week, and if I have to adopt him myself, I'm just kidding. We'll find somewhere. He just had heart problems. I'm not going to bring on that. But we'll find somewhere for him if that makes everybody happy that one dog gets put somewhere.
Hey, I have
But
what about pet centers? Have you guys thought about doing like adoption days?
We have one next, it's either this Saturday or next Saturday.
okay.
Yes, and they gave me a ton of stuff today.
Okay, Dee Dee, let's stay on task with this, because, I mean, after hearing this, I mean, y'all heard both sides and what the questions are.
Well,
I feel
I'd like to respond whenever you get,
Okay, I
whenever
will.
she gets through.
I will, but I mean, Dee Dee, I mean, it's a very, very, I mean, compelling,
He don't want to hear no more. He want to get to
no,
the budget.
what, yeah, I mean.
And
but-
Dee Dee, I want you to know that your efforts are appreciated. And until it became Dee Dee getting too much overtime, nobody was saying a thing.
When I'm cleaning dog crap in 100-degree weather,
That's right.
I want to be paid.
That's right.
And I'm gonna tell you something.
they brought
We
it-
got
they brought
guys
it-
that get 4 hours standby and don't get called out, 2 hours if they get called out, even if it's 5 minutes. That's 6 hours of doing nothing. Our little bit of time down there, we're busting our butts.
The first time we heard about it, since this board has been together, I've been knowing about what's going on down there.
Yeah.
But the first time it was brought to this board, like we got to do something, is because Dee Dee is getting too much overtime. And that came from Mark to Buzz to
Whoa,
us.
whoa, 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 now, see, Alderman
That's
McCoy,
not-
that's not completely true.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Okay, well, straighten it up then.
That's
I put
a
out the straighten it up.
concession Alderman Probst won't talk about. He was
What's that?
complaining about the overtime.
I look at
I-
overtime. I look at overtime in a lot of things, but
And
that's because I dealt with that for many years
and
in
see,
in my profession, and business is very important.
And
But go ahead.
And we got to a point where that was something you wanted to have done, was the overtime on that, and I'm not disagreeing with that as far as the overtime that was being and what the cost was. We've got the cost down, we're still getting a dog pound run, but that is, as far as a concession, you know, That's one of them.
But what did it
It's not-
take, Buzz?
Huh?
I mean, Mayor Kraft, what did it take for me to get there? How long did it take? I asked you this 2 years ago to look at it, and look at it. That's the point I'm making. We look at it, look at it, look at it. Not to say, and all of it, Dee Dee, I didn't come to you because I don't handle the employees. That's why I never came to talk to you. I don't
But
go
you
to
talked the
employ.
fire department and
He
you
was
talked
my
to the-
department, that was my department.
About me?
No, I didn't talk to about you. I talked to Joey about a solution, is what we talked about, right, Joey? What we could get a solution if we could work this out. Not about you per se, it's not about you, it's about this city and about talking to Mayor Kraft for 2 years about the whole situation. And that's the truth. I mean, and is it not right? Have we not talked about this for a long, long time?
Well,
About
we-
the fact of how Joey was supposed to be operating that, and it wasn't done. And this ordinance that was in place for a long time, that nothing was ever done. Again, if we're not gonna obey an ordinance, then why do we have it?
And
That's my
why-
point.
That's why we need to change the ordinance.
But
Now,
here we
we
are
did.
tonight, here we are
Wait.
tonight with that.
Dee Dee, will you agree that you and I and a team met at the mayor's office on several occasions to try to do just that? You knew that there was issues with the ordinance, and we tried in the beginning to get the ordinance changed, and
Yeah,
it failed.
I spent 2 or 3 months
Yeah, and
researching, and I have all that.
and we did that originally, and nothing ever came of it.
So this
I
is
mean,
my point.
Mayor,
It's been
you remember us
ongoing.
coming
Yeah,
in,
I
because I remember
remember,
stories
but I
about
mean,
hats
ongoing
and
about this
pillowcases and all
ordinance.
kinds of stuff.
Please, one person.
Okay, go ahead.
And also, you also asked, you said, we need help. So I reached out to the chief and we got you an inmate, right?
At times, we'll go months without.
Right.
one.
And then,
Sometimes.
and then so you said that and you said, it's kind of sporadic. I need part-time. So I actually made that argument. Is that correct, Mayor Kraft? I made the argument. Mr. Murray was there and we met with the mayor and I said, she will cut back on her overtime, but she needs help. So we negotiated a part-time employee for $10 an hour. And I think where the issue, and as you know, I support the dog pound. Every time there's a fundraiser, every time there's an anything, I don't do it out loud because I don't want it to seem like, I'm trying to do it for attention, but you know that. And I think where the issue came out was that when we did get the inmate and we did get the part-time worker, and now I think there might be 2, the overtime did not scale back based on what I presented to the mayor and Mr. Murray was, we can save money overall by hiring a part-time worker at this amount. And then 1 became 2, and the overtime didn't end. And that, I think, is where it all culminated.
Okay, well, let me tell you what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
We had an inmate working all day long, and he was down there by himself. That's illegal. We're not supposed to do that. I did not know that until I went to the meeting at the Highway 15, and the warden down there told all of us, like Concordia Falls and anybody that had work release people, like he told us all the rules, don't do this, don't do that. And that guy was not supposed to be left down there by himself. And he was doing the morning work all the way to the afternoon, and Ann would come in the afternoon and work the 3 hours. And then I was down there on weekends, every single Saturday and every other Sunday, because she couldn't work every single day. And that's where that happened. Well, we lost that guy, so he wasn't there anymore. So I worked during my working hours, my regular working hours, like some mornings. And then we ended up getting Ann to come mornings and afternoon, and almost overnight. It's too much. It's too much for one person. And that's why I continue to work. They're live animals. You can't just not do it. And as long as, that's what I'm saying about overtime. My overtime, 1 hour, the physical labor that's put into it, way more than a lot of people get for a day's work. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And so anyway, overtime is gone. It's gone, it's done. That's in the past, it's gone. I don't want it more, don't pay me a dime, I don't care. Between me and God. So,
Really,
she gets her and the other lady get $10 an hour. $10 an hour. There's 12 kennels, there's some in the front. You gotta clean those wire cages. And if you ever cleaned one, you'll know how gross that is. $10 an hour. You're looking at least 12 piles of poo. I mean, you want to get technical. And then you open the little guillotine door and they go out, they're gonna do it again just because you just hosted. You got 24 piles of poop, and I'm just trying to make a point. None of y'all have been down there. That really hurts me to the core.
I've
You
been
wanna
there.
say
I've been
you
there,
have, and you have.
Absolutely.
And it's wrong.
I delivered a ton of supplies down there, dude.
Did you go inside?
No, the day I came, it was pouring down rain, remember?
But the whole thing
You know?
is, you wanna take something away from us that have worked. And it's not just me and Ann, it's a ton of people in this city that constantly, when I ask for something, dog food, 10 minutes, you know? And I'm just saying, how can you cut back on something if you've never even looked at it or see what we do or look at the animals?
But
Dee Dee,
I'd
look,
like to say something else.
all right, I'm gonna let Alderman approach. We need to move on. Dee Dee, thank you so much.
The key is this. We've discussed this. You've heard 3 aldermen discuss this with your mayor, and nothing was done. Do you understand? The whole deal is nothing was done, and we finally got to this point. It could have been done a whole lot simpler, right? Do you think? To discuss it a little. I'm just saying it could have been. But the key is this. The key is this ordinance that states what this town runs on. And if it's not being followed, then why do we follow any ordinance? Is the key. And that ordinance not being followed, again, goes back to Mayor Kraft.
You want us to kill them after 7
No, I'm
days?
not saying that. I'm
What are you
saying,
saying?
we said in the, we came up with, I think a lot of people in here said the ordinance need to be changed, but why did we wait so long to get to this point to where it
I
has
don't
been?
know, we can sit here all night and go, why
That's
do
my
this,
point.
why do that?
That's my
It's what
point.
it is.
Okay, all right, well, all right, look, I've just said, look, we need to change our ordinance, and we'll work on that. And look, I invite anybody in the public, everybody's raising their hand, I invite you immediately tomorrow or the next day, get with Dee Dee, and what we'll do is one or two with the council want to meet, and we will sit there, we'll redo the ordinance, and we'll bring it back.
And again, Mayor Kraft, it goes back to the point of, do we want to become a shelter? Which is what this is, or do we want to be a dog pound, is what we have in place that's not being followed? And that's the question that we need to come up with.
And
To what extent do we want to be that?
Okay, and I would, anybody that feels,
I have the answer to your thing. Animal shelter, Louisiana state law. Animal shelter. Need my glasses because I'm crying. Okay. Means any building, structure, site, enclosure, or other facility used or operated for the housing or keeping of any stray, homeless, abandoned, or unwanted animals, including any facility designed by the parish or city governing authority for the keeping or housing of any impounded animals. You could call it a daycare. It doesn't matter.
But Dee Dee, what I'm saying is, this is a 7-day in this ordinance. A shelter is continual. It's continual, and we have to house them for a period of time. That's the point that we need to
Right, I
change.
wanna change
That's
it,
what we
and
have
I worked
to,
on
and
it.
Look,
determine whether we want to go
all right,
there.
look, let's move on. We've determined, really, then everybody else will get.
To solve a problem, why didn't he come talk to
Wait,
Dee Dee
it's-
about the dog pound?
Look, let's move on.
Ma'am, did I?
Or let's,
Never mind, I'm not.
okay, Rick is signaling, he needs to go, and, Rick, thank you so much. And, we're fixing to move on. Look, we've talked a long time about the dog pound. We got a big budget here that we need to talk about. So let's,
Okay.
any other questions?
Now,
Alderman?
my next thing.
Okay.
I'll go to my next point, is now we're going to the convention center, which I brought up last time. Where are we gonna go? Because I feel like the hotel coming in is one thing. It might, and it might not. You've heard people say in here about the amount of money we're spending on it, public comment about the money that we're spending on it. We need to reduce that budget to where we are not losing that kind of money on that convention center. Now, you have also in the paper, I've talked about attrition. What have you got in the paper advertising for a job, you've got a job advertisement in the paper that is not attrition, that's hire. Where are we at with that? And what does that consist of? What, an accounting assistant, I think it says?
That's right.
Okay, tell me what that is.
Mindy Ratcliffe is, please y'all, please, Alderman Probst is asking a question when I talked about attrition. We are, the City Hall, you know, we've got a big budget that requires a lot of paperwork, and our CPA's assistant, Mindy Ratcliffe, has decided she's going to move to another state. Mindy provides a lot of, it's basically she's a bookkeeper who goes and does a lot of the bookwork, verifying of general ledgers, and does a host of things, balancing bank statements, you know, doing all kinds of, she really has a very, very busy and important job. She is going to be moving, and there's no way that we can get the accounting work done without that being replaced. That's necessary.
Okay, and
That's necessary. And by the way, and by attrition, when I took office, we had over 180 employees. We are down to 141 full-time. I think that was the last count, Jay.
Okay.
So I mean, we've cut a bunch of people.
Well,
or not rehired people.
Again, that's the point I'm making. As far as the attrition, you don't have to attrition anybody. What, is she actually college trained? Is she a college graduate with that bookkeeping experience, or what? How
I don't know
did
if
she become a
college trained or
bookkeeper?
not.
She's
She had
not
been with the town
college
for a long
trained, but
time.
she's got very valuable experience, and she's got the brains.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Meticulous work that she does.
As far as moving someone that's in a position already in Vidalia to that position, because we've got somebody at the IT center that answers their telephone. We've got somebody at the convention center that answers the telephone. We have nobody at street and sanitation to answer the telephone, do we? I think, how many calls would you think you get a day, Lee? How many do you think the IT center gets? I don't think too many. But I know you don't know that. But again, and then the convention center. We also have a marketing person, in my opinion, that could be utilized in that convention center or IT center, and bring that employee to the city hall, whichever one you choose. You've got a lot of choices. And also a person to go down there and answer his telephone that's ringing more, I think, than the 5 people at the convention center. You do need Michael Lyles there to maintain that convention center. I have to agree with that. And you may need a marketing person there to work it out to where she can market it and take care of it, and have those other people that are experienced in it somewhere else, and if they are needed, which they will be, to bring them back, because that would help not hire this new person along with cutting the cost in the budget. And I feel like that's something that should be done and reduced in the budget. At least 2 employees, at least 2 out of the convention center. At least 2.
Okay.
What's your thought?
My thoughts are is that is a critical position that we are advertising, and Deborah's going to, that person's going to be working with Deborah. And I feel like that to get the best person, rather than just getting somebody who's answering a phone to take care of that important accounting work, they need to have a level of education and bookkeeping experience.
But go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and finish, and I'll rebuttal.
And they're going to require a level of experience that we feel like this is important. That is as much, just like, for example, just how long we've been having to fool with this budget, that time needs to be spent on doing things that we need to do on a daily basis, that if it wasn't for somebody like of her level that we've got now, at least coming in that can do that work, then we are severely going to suffer, because it is a very, very important part that we play. Look, when we came in here and Deborah came in here, there were taxes being paid late. Do you know what we found one penalty I went back and looked at? Just one time our employment taxes weren't paid on time. You know what the fee was? You want to take a guess? $25,000. And here we are talking about something that we got to stay on top of, paying your payroll taxes, paying all your forms, paying your Department of Labor thing. There's reports, retirement reports, doing a lot of, also human resource things with 140 employees that you do. Everybody in what they say that side of the hall, administration, wears a lot of hats. And we've got to make sure that the person is qualified to do that work. We're not going to put somebody in there that's just answering the phone and that has no bookkeeping experience. I'm sorry. We're going to advertise for it. We're going to look at it. Now, if those people, there's other people within the town that have bookkeeping experience and have got the knowledge, Tommy, they can apply for the position if they want to move out of a department. They're welcome to apply it. We'll take that into consideration. And I'm going to let Deborah probably play the most important part of who that person's going to be, because we have got to have somebody in that position because it's very, very important.
But again, I go back, that's the first question I asked. Was she college trained? Was she trained in bookkeeping? Did she have the experience to do the reports she had when she started? And you said no, correct? Did you say that?
She went to the VOTEC school, and she had the accounting experience from there.
Okay,
She
have
came-
you, but
she had
again,
trained
I go
from
back to the
other-
point, have you even attempted to make that ask, look and see, of an internal employee that we have already before going and hiring another people? Because we got people that really and truly, I've had this stated to me. I think you made a statement. You wonder how they get a check? Did you make that one time? You wonder how that happens?
What happened, sorry?
Because what do they do? And I don't know who you were referring to, but there was somebody
Oh,
that,
I
you did
know,
say that to
That's
me.
not, I did say it, but I'm not at liberty.
I understand, but we did say, how do they get, but again, we need to utilize every employee that we have and make that employee work to gain, if it's more knowledge and more knowledge, that's a good opportunity to upper mobility. That's part of it. We can give them the opportunity to move up instead of answering the telephone if they can. If they can't, then, you know, there's hard calls that a manager has to make. I had to make them in my position when I was at the post office. You're not needed here. In fact, it happened to me, so I know how it happens. You're not needed here any longer, so you got to find another job here. So I understand that fully. That's what happened, and that's what happens to people sometimes when things change. And change is hard, but change has to happen in our town, in my opinion, to get where we want to be. So consideration on that is what I'm asking for. 2 people.
Again, my response is going to be the same Alderman approach. And I don't want, this is kind of, and I'm not trying to get, you're asking for somebody, again, that's got bookkeeping experience, that has experience, has some education, to come in and apply for that job, then yes, I would consider them, and we would sit down and interview them and see what the level of that expertise is. I'm sure if you're going to have surgery, you don't want the doctor that can't come up that night and get the secretary down there to come, hey, look, come see if you can do this for me. I mean, I want to say, this is very important. This is a very, very critical, important part of our town. And I just feel like we need a good qualified person in there. And I'm not going to back up from that because it's critical.
Okay.
If something's not
That's
getting
good.
done, or somebody misses something, if somebody trustworthy, somebody that, and I'm not saying those people are not, and please don't misrepresent what I'm saying. That is too critical a position, a mission critical spot for us just to put somebody on there that's just answering the phone somewhere. Now, as far as moving people around as far as answering the phone, that's another issue. But as far as this position goes, it needs to be a hire, and it's whoever wants it that feels like they have the experience, apply for it within the town, and I will take a look at them. But that's just, I mean, that's my feeling. I mean, I'm not.
Again, I asked for 2 people, and I said, people can be trained in positions that they have not been trained in, and they can be retrained to do another job. That's called skills training, and that's what people get trained to do.
Okay.
I'm just,
Okay.
okay, I've asked you for what I feel like I
Okay.
need, okay?
All right.
That's just
Barbara,
a
I'm
little
going to
bit.
allow this one time, because you know what?
I'm defending you.
Okay, I know, and that's not why I'm gonna let you talk, because, you know, one time you got mad at me because you wanted to say something, and we wasn't on the agenda, but you know what, I'm gonna allow you to say
I
something.
want to tell Tommy,
Bro,
the mayor is wrong. He's right, I'm sorry. I've worked in municipalities, I've worked in the bookkeeping part, I know what you've got to go through. You have got to have somebody in there that has the skills, has the training, and can do it if ever.
but if they apply, like you said, and they feel like they can, and he interviews them, that would be okay. There you go. Right,
Okay,
Don't take it away from anybody.
Right.
But the mayor's right, you need somebody fully skilled.
okay, thank you, Barbara.
Bye.
All right, any other questions from council on the budget?
Yes. One of the things that we said is, you know, I requested or asked for consideration of a reduction of $500,000, you know, in the revenues. And it was said we should wait until these other businesses come on board so that we can make sure that we can afford it. I liked that answer. And I think it should apply to other places in the town as well. And I believe that that should also apply to the convention center. With what we have with revenues in the convention center, and it has been cut, you have cut it drastically since you inherited it. Not to discredit what you've done. But currently, we're looking at, you know, expenses over revenues of $331,000, and we're on a hope and a prayer that hotels will come and occupancy taxes are going to help fund that, and we're going to, you know, hopefully get more events in there. And if you know, if I were, you know, I'm a business owner, so if I were running my business at that much of a deficit on an annual basis, my doors would be closed. Or I would have to reduce my expenses to my revenues. And, you know, that's just the reality. You're a business owner, you know, you're a business owner as well. The only reason the convention center can stay afloat at this time, even with the wonderful reductions that you've made, is by government bailout on a monthly basis. The rest of the government is bailing them out. What I wish we could see happen is once it increases, once the revenues increases, once the occupancy tax from the new hotel comes on board, once we have all of that revenue coming in, we then have room for expansion to hire additional people there. But that is a very large sum, you know, that is being spent on an annual basis. And I think the convention center is great. Our committee utilizes it, you know, weekly. We use it often. We use the riverfront. I think it's a fantastic place, and I think Vidalia is lucky to have it. However, you know, we're increasing revenues in some of the utility departments because we're not covering the expenses. The convention center does actually have revenues. It has revenues from the occupancy tax. It has revenues from the rentals. But we're continuing to allow it to be upside down on an annual basis. And I think that's something that needs to be considered.
To what level?
That it is operated profitably. And as it becomes more profitable, or at least at a wash, then you can expand that.
Okay, what are we showing the loss on it now? And what are the salaries? What are the
Let's
salaries?
see. Total personal services is $256,300.
So lay off everybody and close it.
No, because as you mentioned, you know, you've got revenues of $77,000 up there, because you get supplemental pay. We need security, we need maintenance, and we do need somebody to help market it. But I wonder if perhaps marketing and the marketing of the convention center should be one job. What else is the marketing department marketing other than the convention center?
There's a lot of things that they do as far as your day-to-day ads, and also your Facebook, internet page. Working with, I mean, she's, our marketing director's worked with Regina extensively on doing some things. And look, I hear what you're saying. My feelings is, you know, I think with the budget that we've got here, we can go one more year to see how it's going to shake down. But to get it to where, I've always heard this said, I don't know, but they said if you have a convention center, it's never going to be profitable. It's never going to make money. It's basically, and it's something else that, you know, one of the things I wanted to do, that the one thing that I haven't done that I felt like that I promised, and as far as when I was campaigning, is for District 1 to have a community center. Well, you know what? We have a community center. It's right there, that Jim Bowie room, available. I mean, something for our community, whether it's a citywide function or something like that, you know, we do have a community center. And rather than going to have, is something funny, Alderman McCoy?
We've been saying that all the time.
Okay.
That's a
Well,
great
do you wanna-
place.
Do you want to close it?
Well, no, you ran the price up on the place so bad, no, we couldn't get it.
But that's for
And
commercial.
only certain people could get the building when needed.
Okay.
That's a great idea over again, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got a community
But we
center.
have been here, I mean, since the last year, till we could get things lined out, we did start opening up the Jim Bowie room for repasses and not charging for that, other than covering the cost of the insurance.
Okay.
And liability of it. I mean, as far as companies coming in and using, yes, you gotta charge.
I got that.
I mean,
I
you-
got that,
okay,
yeah.
all right, okay.
And I think if the marketing strategy was just right,
And we,
it'll be people coming in to use it.
I agree, and we're gonna improve that. We're gonna improve what we have to offer
See,
there.
we
And don't have to
agreeing.
spend the money.
We agreeing.
I'm glad.
We agree.
I hope we agree here and we'll get down to a vote. That's what I'm looking at.
We know that's all you want.
Today it is, yeah. But, I mean, anyway, Alderman Dorey, to address your, I mean, those are some of the points are good, but as far as, you know, to get to where you say it's gonna be profitable, you have to lay everybody off right now because of where we're at. However, I do believe that once we get in and see what this other new hotel's gonna do, you know, we'll address that, and there's, you know, we'll all come to a collective agreement where, hey, look, this is how much we can stand to continue operating at our current level. You know, to me, the $200,000 that we're paying for it to be a center for us to have that's ready to go for any kind of emergency, and the things that we have, I mean, there's been a lot of things community-wise. I know the schools use it at times. They come in and they'll have a function 2 or 3 times a year that, you know, they couldn't go anywhere else. It's provided a bunch of things that I just feel like that right now, let's get another year under our belt, see what it turns into. And I think that, look, and then next year, when we start working on this budget again, let's look and see if we've turned the corner any. Because the new hotel is supposed to be opening any day, so.
I do find it strange that when it comes to reducing the electric rates, which will help 100% of the people in the town, you want to wait and see. You don't want to reduce it by $500,000 to further lower the electric rates. You want to wait until we see if we're going to have more revenues from businesses coming.
Because right now, even though we're showing $3 million in revenues over expenses, those monies are from our hydro increased revenues and also from the sale of the property.
That's right.
Now, if you want to do that, if you want to eat into the $500,000 of the sale of the building for this 1 year, y'all make the call.
No, I don't want to do that. What you said is the reason we have that stretch is because we have the sale of the building and the increase in revenues. And Mr. Murray said we're operating very closely as it is. What I'd like to see is not that, you know, we're tightening it up just enough, just where we can. I want to see us reduce those expenses, that our stretch is not because of a one-time sale of an asset that will never come again. I don't want that to be the reason for the stretch. I want it to be because we work together, all of us, work together closely. That's what I'd like to see. Because, you know, one of the things that I haven't seen in the 2.5 years are ditches being cleaned out, sidewalks being repaired, gutters being added to streets that don't have them. You know, the signs around town that are faded and things not being replaced. Those are the things, and I know some of the things have been done. Fire hydrants have been painted, signs have been done. I'm not saying that no progress has made. Please don't think that that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there are things that we haven't done. We haven't cleaned out the ditches as we should have. I get the same people that I emailed you about our first month or 3 in office, still, you know, wondering when those are going to be cleaned out, back behind Cadet Street and in that area. Those are the things I wish we could focus a little more on. We're asking, again, this year, we're asking the people, hold out for us just a little bit longer until things get a little bit better. till more money comes in, until we can do it. Y'all just hang in there with us. In a couple of years, it's gonna be better. But the truth is, we have the power to make it better now. But what we have to do is we have to make sure that the residents become just as much of a priority as everything else. We have to make sure we have things on board for a playground, because I know you and I met with Mr. Murray to talk about recreation and a playground somewhere in town. That pavilions be created so we can have outdoor things. You know, all of these things that with a $30 million budget, and it is $30 million if you take out the port and you take out the loan, it is a $30 million budget. You're right about that. What are we providing other than the status quo? What are we providing to the residents?
Okay.
Yes, sir, I'm through.
Okay, all right. Number one, we talked about how tight we are. I would say operationally, Mark, how tight is your material supply budget and otherwise? And Lee, I'm going to ask you the same question. Also, each department that we have tightened down the bolts as far as everywhere we can cut down as far as what we're spending and things of that nature. Yeah, we can go in and pick out some items where there's a $2,000 deal where there's, you know, drinks and coffee or things that we can go in and do that thing. And, you know, but what else is there left to cut once you get down to it? And because, you know, can we save $50,000 of cutting out cold drinks and water provided? Or, you know, because, you know, number one, when you budget, just because you budget something, you have items budgeted, doesn't mean you're going to spend them. They're there in case you have it. If Lee has to get tires, he's going to get them. I'm getting to a point, we've got our budget down so tight, and so if you want to take $500,000 in revenues from the town, the next thing to do is going to be going out the door is people. So, I mean.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You could do things like, instead of, you know, like, because we're going to get to the capital outlay in a little bit. You know, we've got a lot of capital outlay that is, you know, that is it something that's necessary for the function of the town, or is it something that we sure would like to have? And, you know, that's one of the things that I think we need to talk about. And I know that they've met with you and told you why they want and or need those things. But is it something that is absolutely necessary for the function of our town at this time, until such time as these businesses come in and become profitable?
Okay. I will remind you of the meeting, the first budget meeting we had. I had $500,000 set aside for capital outlay with no designation. Mm-hmm. And you wanted it designated.
That's right.
So you wanted it designated. I had it there for a reserve because, Mark, right now we got, how much is that? Is Guy Murray still here? He's not. How much is that total sewer project right now? This is to repair sewers.
200,000.
200,000. So there goes 200,000 just like that, and that's got to be done.
Right.
So you're down to 300,000. So, you know, we designated things on there because that's what you requested. You requested, well, look, spend this money. Don't just put it out there. You know, I had it out there like that because I wasn't gonna spend it unless it might be nice.
No.
I won't necessary.
You know,
And
not to say what you're saying is not true. I don't mean to say that to
Okay.
you. But point of clarification, that is not what I meant. What I meant was, we can't just say, yeah, there's $500,000 in capital outlay. As a matter of fact, I said to Mr. Staggs at one point, where are the presentations? Where are the coming in and saying, we need this and we need it because of this, and we've looked at this option and this option and this option?
They were in those department
Staggs,
head
did
meetings
we-
when y'all came in and talked.
Right, that's what I was referring to.
Okay, did y'all come to those meetings? Most of you, but I mean, but they bring a wish list. Mark's wish
Right.
list is $1 million, 2 or 3, ain't it? At one point, I remember but what I'm saying is they come in with things that they feel like that would, you know, they bring in nice. And what did I do? I cut back down to necessary. And that's why, that was just Mark's department. I ain't counting Lee's and or anybody else's. That's. So what I'm saying is we still got to manage the monies that we've got. And the reason why you put it in capital outlay, because if we have something, an emergency that's got to take, you know, something, why I put it in there is because, and I wanted it like it was. That way, if something happened, I didn't have to call a meeting and get y'all to come say, hey, can we spend $200,000 to fix this? it's appropriated and we can do it, if it's something that's mission critical to our town, then yeah, then it's available for me to, make the call and us get it fixed, something that's critical. Now, again, I hear what you're saying, and, I just don't think that without going into, that $500,000 capital outlay is gonna get eat up pretty quick. I mean, there's need of mowers right now that we need to get. There's some things that we need to do with our fire rating, that we had today as far as a service truck. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things that's gonna wind up saving the people money in the town. And we're working very hard toward that. And I encourage anybody to come in and look at our process. I would love for them to come in. Because this is where you find it, back in those roads. And Deborah, Jay, myself, Bill, I'll be glad to sit down with you and talk with you on these things at length. From this point on, look, with the alderman as far as, Alderman Boyd made words earlier as far as dysfunctional things of that nature. Look, I'm not proud of our last few meetings. I'm not proud of our budget meetings at all. But what I'm asking y'all, and I don't want to go with the miscommunication time between you and I. Where I could go with it. We need to communicate. Y'all need to
Where
communicate.
could you go? I don't know.
Huh?
Where?
When you were mayor pro tem before this last budget was ready to go, I called you 17 times in front of staff trying to get you to come in. You would never answer your phone.
You want
or
to talk
come in.
about when we went into office, about that, how you acted?
Well,
Since we're going to get to talking about where I was
Yeah.
or whatever I didn't do, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, you want to talk about how you
about?
put your finger in my face.
No, that was the other way around.
No.
Because I had to slow you down.
You walk yourself right out of a vote by being ugly.
No.
You know what I mean?
Look,
by mistreating that man.
No,
You walk
no.
yourself
Well,
right
no
out.
sense in what
I'm-
professionalism
For the
is
last
what's about.
30 minutes, you
Professionalism.
talk-
So don't start that with
For
me.
the last 30
ever.
minutes, you talk like, okay, here's some compromise, and
Okay.
we need to do this, and we need to.
Did you-
The first time you said "we" since you've been in office,
Look,
you said
no.
"we" tonight.
See, that's not-
And
see,
then you
you're-
go right and kick that man.
Alderman McCoy, with all due respect,
Yeah,
I was
that's
getting
how I've
to
been
the point
talking to
to
you, with all
offer
due
y'all an olive
respect.
branch to move forward from here. That's where I was going.
I want to say one
put-
more thing whenever you get through.
Okay.
I do want to
All right.
say something.
Because-
You referred to me as mayor pro temp maybe once, since we're talking about it. The day you went on the cruise and all these employees' insurance went out. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And I made a call from people calling me about not getting surgeries, medicine and everything. I was mayor pro temp. And I made a call to the council, Jack, or George. And I got chastised for that because I didn't have the power to do the things that,
Who chastised you?
oh, it was brought up about me. I shouldn't have got into that realm because you didn't leave me any power. It has to be designated by the mayor before he leaves town to leave the power to the mayor pro temp to sign checks and do those things. You never once gave me one bit of power to do that because that's how the Larson Act is written. You have to give that prior to your leaving town to accomplish those things.
Okay.
And then I got scolded because these guys was calling, wanting to know, how am I gonna get my insurance? How am I gonna get my drugs? How am I gonna get this? That's what took place, and as mayor pro tem. And that's exactly what took place. So just one little clarification of mayor pro tem.
Well, I don't like the word power.
I didn't say power, but that's what it was supposed to be.
I use the word responsibility.
Well, but you had to
And-
give me that power. That's what it states in the Larson
You
Act.
had the
We were doing so
responsibility, Tom, you had the responsibility to be able to sign documents, to fill in, to do those things that is required by law. To give you power, I don't have the authority to give you power.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. Those laws are spelled out by the Larson Act. I can't give you something that I don't have the authority
But
to
it
give
is
you.
stated,
It's
you give that in writing before you leave.
All right, anyway, I was going to a point where I said, look, we getting past all these things.
Go ahead.
I encourage y'all to come in and start communicating with us. And if we are talking about things that are confidential, keep them confidential. I mean, and that's all I'm asking. If there's something that we're talking about, for example, it's convention center and we're talking about options to do things, to cut or whatever, and we talk about different things that we don't want to do, don't leave the room and go tell people we're fixing to do this at the convention center if we hadn't made a decision. I'll talk with you on them, but they have to remain confidential within it till we make a decision as a group. So, from here on out, our door's open. It always has been. So, Anyway, any other question on the budget?
Yes, in the capital outlay, you're showing a hot water heater for the fire department for $12,500.
Okay.
What kind of water heater is this? $12,500.
Well, the next bid to that was 23,000. Go ahead, John.
I know, but
That was the water heater that whoever the engineer was put in that, department over there. When it went out, the guys went for 2 weeks with no warm water whatsoever over there to shower in, to stay there 24 hours a day and night.
yeah.
And we asked for prices on the exact same water heater, and it was double that price, $23,000 for that exact water heater to go back. So we thought outside the box, and we got one of those on-demand water heaters, well, they got 2 of them in, conjunction together there, where as soon as you turn the water on, it goes through it, and it runs off of, natural gas. And that was 12,000 or something for that, to do the same job as 23,000.
Did you say it had already been purchased?
Yes, ma'am.
It's already been
If
installed.
not, we'd be over there right now, what?
No,
Without any.
No, and I'm not concerned about that. I mean, you needed hot water over there.
Well, I mean, how can they get it then? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
She
No.
saying she with you, Johnny.
I'm saying I'm with you.
She's got a question about authority here.
No, I don't have a question about authority.
Okay.
Why do you have to be so accusatory? I do not have a question about authority.
No, I mean-
Before we could get that, we wound up having to get 3 different bids from different places before we
Right.
could even do it, because they were trying to get the best deal we could get.
Okay. And that's the reason, just so that you know, it's not a question about authority. The reason that came across my face is I was looking at this current status compared to last adopted budget that was provided to the board, and it shows that no money has yet been spent in capital outlay.
It's included in the other, I didn't separate it out.
So that was where that came from, that question of has it already been done, is because I did not know that it had not been separate. I didn't know that. That was not in any way directed at you, nor was it in any way a struggle for power or anything like that. It was just a question because the paperwork that we have to study didn't reflect that. And it's not that it wasn't in the paper, it just wasn't broken out. So, point of clarification.
Okay. But it was appropriate, I mean, the monies are there, and we were able to do it through that. And the reason why I did that, I had an email that was questioning my authority to have spent those monies to fix their hot water.
Did it come from me?
No, it didn't. But,
So it wasn't a question of authority from me, correct?
no, but
Okay.
I was curious about the line of question. But go ahead.
That's what it was.
Okay.
Now, can we talk about the truck from the fire department and the ambulance, if you don't mind? He said just a moment ago that it was needed to perhaps retain or lower our protection class. Is that true?
It's not to retain our classification, it's not to do that. What it is, we use another vehicle for a quick response. We've got it where if the ambulance goes out, we've got one guy takes off with the quick response truck to go and see what we have there.
Mhm.
So it's 3 guys there to help on medical, whatever conditions going on when we get there. Same with the fire. They'll take off in the quick response vehicle like that to get to the scene to see, do we need to call Nolan and tell Nolan to come on with his equipment so that we can get this bigger fire taken care of, or can we handle it with the guys that are on duty at the time?
Right. It's a scout vehicle.
It is.
Gotcha. Because it can maneuver faster
And
through.
when you get to a fire scene, you pull all the hoses off, they're dirty, you don't just, when you get through it, you just put them back on the truck. You gotta put them in the back of another truck, bring them to the station, wash them off, let them dry, so they don't mold and mildew before we put them back on the rack. Or if they muddy or dirty, what have you, they'll clean those trucks.
Okay. Now,
And one for the street department also.
yours is 35,000.
Right.
Can we not get an $8,000 one?
We can. We just got rid of, 3 vehicles that we had because they were used vehicles. We got rid of all of those, and we've been down without vehicles now for like 2 years because we cut back like that.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, out of all the departments, everybody's done their job on it, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm singled out, but the fire department has cut way, way back on everything from the beginning to the end of it right now. And we're willing to still cut back on it if we need to.
Right. I just, again, where I've got 2 vehicles in one department for a total of, let me find it again.
There's 56,000 is for Mark's department.
Yeah,
Two-
56 for
two
Mark's
vehicles.
2.
Yeah.
And then I've got used trucks for street for 15, and then one for the fire department for 35. So
And
that's where this is coming
Last
from.
year, when we tried to get the budget passed in, I had that in there for 15 as well for a used vehicle then.
Okay.
We limped around, so to speak, without one at all, because we didn't get it in, because as soon as the budget was approved, we didn't just shoot out somewhere and grab it and do it. I talked to Mr. Moak to see, do you have the money available that we can go and buy this?
Yeah.
And wound up at the end of the year, all the monies were spent already on whatever else was out there, and we didn't get it.
Gotcha.
See what I'm saying? So we
Yes,
looked
sir.
around what we've got. Right now, Joey is letting us borrow one of those cars that they had that was supposed to be auctioned off or what have you because of old and out of service.
Yeah. So you had it in last year's budget for 15, but we're not able to purchase it.
Right. And I talked to them, was, Mr. Best was our alderman at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And when Joey come to say something about the new vehicles they purchased for the police vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
he said that it was so much better if you lease them or if you buy them brand new because you'll have a warranty to go along with them.
Right?
And the same thing is what I mentioned, Mr. Betts about that. I asked him, I said, what do you think would be better, us to go down here to the surplus and get a vehicle for $15,000, keep it for 2 years, and then turn around and have to put $10,000 or $12,000 worth of mechanical work on it?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think it'd be better for us to not get it this year, like we're saying, and limp around until next year and try to get a brand new one with a warranty on it?
Right.
So,
And y'all chose the latter. Gotcha. Turnout gear, there's no question on that. You gotta have your turnout gear.
Do what?
I said, there's no question on the turnout gear. You gotta have that. So
Right.
there's no question. When you said that, Mayor Kraft, just a moment ago about trying to reduce the protection class, does anything in the capital outlay for this year for that, or is that just internal mechanisms that y'all are trying?
Internal and also dealing with the other agencies as far as dispatch, 911, their sheriff department, and also our police, and certifications and training that we're starting to be preemptive on as far as doing some requirements of, and we met with, I think had a real good meeting on things that we're going to do to try to put in place. There might be some cost on that. I think it's going to be minor. Deals with training, maybe some materials, but I think guys done left, but also a lot of these training materials and manuals for these dispatchers are going to be provided for by his office as being the FEMA director, I mean, not the FEMA director, but the emergency director for the Concordia Parish. And we're going to try to make sure that we also, I think we're going to make sure we have the systems. I think Joey, one of his dispatchers, came in and going through the process of how quick all these response times are supposed to be, and make sure that we're, number one. And also, we would talk as far as staffing, water. Johnny, what was the other things we did? Staffing, water, dispatch.
I think there's so much that we went over today.
It was a good meeting. It really was.
I mean, it was a very informative meeting on a complex deal that we have to follow. I'm glad that you wanted that meeting so that everybody that was there can understand a little more about it. We have a member Alderman there, so we got to see how complex it was as well.
One of the things
It's a doozy.
that they have changed is PIL is the ones who does your rating, and they have changed their guidelines. And I wanted to make sure that we are prepared for those changes that they made, because I don't want under this term for our fire rating to go up. In fact, I want, even with the new more stringent guidelines, I want to see our fire rating go down. So we're trying to make sure that we address all we can to make sure that we maintain at least the same, if not get better. And I think everybody had the feeling, Johnny and Assistant Chief all felt good, feels like we're going to do better from what this man.
That has a huge impact on every resident and every business in the town as far as your insurance cost. So I'm 100% on board with that. So I mean, going from a 3 to a 2 is phenomenal. That would be phenomenal for every single resident in Vidalia who owns a house or has a business. That would be a great thing. So good work. the mowers for the street department, that was covered by grant, wasn't it?
We've got a grant applied for, and it's built into the budget. I
Okay.
think one of those mowers are gonna go, I think, to the rec department. One of those are gonna go there for them.
No, we've got
I
that
think-
separated out in the narrative. Is the 35,000 for the mowers, does that include the one for rec?
No, there is one in the rec department though.
Right, the 13 for the one in rec, but the 35 for the street, that was covered by the grant, right? Okay,
That's the only mowers that we got, that, and then I think Johnny Lee's about got all the good out of that. They've had them for over 8 years, I think.
Yeah, it was, you did tell me that.
We've had mowers on the,
In the past, and we
in
didn't.
the past, on the budget, but we held off buying the last 3 years.
But you stated the other night you got a grant to buy you a new one.
Hoping it will work out.
Yeah. You got a
Whatever we
grant.
can do to save y'all money.
You got a, that was good.
That's just,
On 3, Coach? On 3. Ready to go.
Any more questions?
What's the skid steer for?
bucket for a skid steer. We bought a $3,000 used skid steer at state surplus about 7 years ago.
Uh-huh,
The bucket is, not there anymore.
gotcha. So it's not a new skid steer, it's a replacement part for a broken skid steer.
And you have a quote for 1,500 on that,
Yeah,
too,
we have a
don't
quote
you?
on 15.
Instead of the 35.
We had it purchased.
I got 5,000.
Oh, fine, it's 1,500
So it's
versus
1,500 instead of 5,000. Good for
We
you.
had 5,000 in the budget for that. We were gonna buy a broom on the front of it and a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
We're more than we budgeted.
I was wanting a broom because we was gonna sneak it down the highway at times. I know a lot of times we had one resident, I went out on Liam, they were having flats. She says, I've had 4 flats in 2 weeks. And then when Lee and them went and picked up that little gravel pile, there was all kind of metal and nails and all that. So we just went ahead and cleaned it. And we'll continue to do that.
The air compressor and the aerator, Mr. Morris, is that just to update what we have, or is it as a result of any expansion?
Well, the aerators will replace one that is completely shot.
Mhm.
The air compressor is to upgrade it to existing. All used, 20 years ago.
But it's to replace an existing, not as a result of an upgrade due to any increase in capacity?
Now, it'll be the same size, it's just that it's unpredictable. And
Right.
sometimes we have to go and rent one if it don't crack or whatever. It's pretty well worn out.
Gotcha. We get a narrative on these things, and I know that y'all meet with, with them about it, but it doesn't really, not to discredit what you do. I'm being very careful here today. It doesn't go into a whole lot of detail, so I'm just curious by nature. Mayor, I'm gonna ask one other question of you. One final thing, because everybody's ready to go, and I am too. Will you put the utility rate ordinance on the next regular meeting schedule so that we can close the deal on that and be done with it?
You're talking about Tuesday, no, but I would for maybe January or February, but this next Tuesday by then, I don't see how that can happen. I mean, this is gonna be pretty comprehensive. And I invite anybody, any of y'all to come in and sit down as we go through it. And we'll probably still work with Rick on making sure we, all inclusive. Because there's a lot, we need to cover everything on it, from turn off thing. Jay recently got back from a clerk's convention where, we get a lot of good information on some things that need to be in this ordinance. For example, we've had, if you have a cutoff on a customer, we've had in the past, we've had people go back in and turn themselves on, which is, you're not supposed to do. And we've written tickets, but really, on a legal standpoint, who actually turned it back on? Unless you got video evidence of somebody saying, that's the one turned it on, you can't say that. So we're gonna go through the things that we've got in the other ordinances to say, you can get them for unauthorized use of city electric services or electricity. So there's some things we're gonna make sure that we get,
It's a misdemeanor theft of utility.
well, I mean, you just can't get that individual person write him a ticket, but you can get them for, yeah, the theft. So we're gonna make sure those are things that we wanna go through and make sure they're all inclusive on it, so that we do have some bite if we do, whatever we do with our utilities, it'll be in there. It also have, your connection requirements. Also, it'll have in there as far as, I don't think there's anything in our ordinance as far as requiring people that, they need to give us access. A lot of people, when they say that they give you guessed at their bill, well, guess what? Their gate's locked and they got 3 dogs back there that'll tear you up, and so they might read electricity with binoculars through a fence that they're trying to read, yeah.
I moved those dogs.
But anyway, so, and we have that, and when they say that, sometimes you'll hear that person say, well, they just guessed at mine. Yeah, we tried to do the best we could because the sun was hitting your dial and we couldn't see it from 40 yards away trying to read it with binoculars because we can't get in to read your meter. That's a handful of things, but this is some of the things we deal with, and making sure all these things that we can have some teeth to go into them, say, you got to grant us access to these utility things. We want to make sure we're all inclusive with that stuff. So you asked for the next regular meeting, which is next Tuesday. I don't think that's a possibility.
Can we go ahead and slate it for January?
Can we do a special meeting toward the end of January? Because holidays, the next meeting is going to be about after. I mean, we'll try. I mean, we can shoot for that.
So, okay. In the narrative, it also talked about the health insurance and that there was a deductible change. Is this the second year in a row we've had a deductible change?
It is part of the year. It happened in January of this year, of this year. So, it's still being reflected in this budget because only half of it was in
Right.
last year's.
So there hasn't been an increase from the
No, it's not going to be.
from the 1,500 to the higher amount. So the insurance packet that's being offered to the employees is exactly the same as it was last year?
We're not going to change anything as far as their deductibles go, but I think there could be, what was it going to cost or save the city just a little bit of money? It wasn't going to be much at all. We left the deductible the same because it wasn't going to change the amount of the premium by increasing it any. So he was just going to leave it alone and offer the dental, not the dental, but the vision to the employees free. It's free. It's not free. It's like $800 a month for everybody.
I see.
To get, isn't that correct, Mayor? I mean,
So the plan didn't change, like the co-pays and all that, none of that changed to the employees?
No, I don't really know.
The only thing that they did lower our rate a little bit. It was
Yeah,
a
they
little,
did.
is a fraction.
2%.
Okay.
And one of the things I do want to bring up as far as it was offered is offering, for the cost of just $10,000, we can offer our employees all that's within the insurance, give them all and those who are covered under their policy, vision, and it just costs $10,000 a year, period, for the whole group. And I thought that was a good thing to offer. I would like to, did we put that in? Is that?
It's in there.
Okay.
It's maybe not dollar for dollar, but
Yeah.
You also said in the narrative that there was a change to overtime payout. There's been another change to overtime payout? Or is it the same one? So a lot of the stuff that's in this narrative is the same from last year's narrative.
No, we did change the overtime. They quit paying on the standby pay. What is it?
Standby pay.
Y'all talk about that.
So-called, I think so-called built-in overtime, and the change with the lunch break situation, where instead of getting paid not for working through lunch, they take their lunch. So that was the change.
It didn't change their pay, what they were getting from when.
So it didn't have an effect on the budget whatsoever?
No, not really. Well, it should have had. Because it was what they were getting paid anyway. They just took it out of the overtime category to eliminate or to do away with overtime. So when they do actually work overtime, they get true overtime pay.
Okay.
You said you had one more question, 2 questions.
Well, I mean, you know, as we come to them, it's always, yeah, maybe, no, maybe, you know, so why not ask them all?
Ms. Deborah, what really happened with that is that the mayor made a blanket statement in the meeting where the employees that the built-in overtime, they would still get paid as if they were getting the overtime, but overtime would be specified, it would be specific after
If
that.
they're getting overtime, they get real overtime now.
But it didn't change their rate of pay. They making more money for less hours now, basically.
Some of them, yes.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Why not all of them?
Well, they're all, I mean, they're getting their pay. What it was is it was built in, that was a part of their pay that that was their pay when they came here, and that's what they were told their pay was. Even though it really wasn't right the way they were doing it, this corrects that. This makes it where they're getting that rate, and that's their rate of pay, they're working the same rate. I think the utility department was truly working that hour of overtime. Their rate of pay didn't change, but they, instead of going home at 4, they go home at 3.
Have you given any more consideration to the kind of agreement that we made that if the alderman got off of the health insurance, you would consider a reduction in your own pay?
I would consider it, and I have considered it, but under the current circumstances and the time involved with it, I just don't, I feel like that's something that, I mean, that's your choice, you didn't want the insurance. And yeah, I do, I think that's something that we should be offering, you know?
Wait a minute, that was my choice, I didn't want the insurance. Let me,
No, let me address that.
you kind of bullied that,
Well,
push that down our throats a little bit.
I really think that the alderman as a part-time employee should not get full coverage insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just my feeling on it. I mean, and me as a full-time employee, I'm entitled to it, but I elect to not take, even though I would save my household, my wife's paying for our insurance. She's paying for it out of her check.
Yeah,
That
I
I could go in
understand
tomorrow and get a $19,000 insurance that the town would have to write a check for my insurance. But to save the town the money, I elected not to do it.
Okay.
So when you're asking me to take a pay cut,
No, you said that.
it's consider, or consider a pay
You
cut.
did say that.
You know, to consider.
Get off the insurance, I'll take it.
Look, I mean, there was something else going on at that time, and I don't want to get into that. Look, well, let's keep moving forward. But I'm just saying that I would, you know, if I were to take any kind of substantial pay cut, I could walk in tomorrow and cost the town more money, because I say, okay, if I'm gonna cut that, I'm fixing to make that money back up. Honey, count your insurance there, I'm fixing to get on town insurance, and it costs the town $19,000. I mean, you know, would I do that? No. But I feel like with what, you know, I'm not the highest paid person in town. In fact, I'm way on down, not way on down the list, but probably number 7 or 8.
No, you third.
No, I'm not third.
Third.
I know I'm not third. On total, what the town writes a check for.
You don't
What the
listen.
town writes a check for, I am down the list. I'm talking about, and here's something, when you're an employee, there's more cost to being an employee than just what you get paid. There is retirement, insurance, there is the FICA and Medicare the town has to pay, which, I mean, they pay it on everybody. And also, there's, you know, the rate of your retirement, whether you're a fireman, police, or whatever, those rates are different, so they come in different. So for me, if you figure in, and the town's having to write a check for that insurance each month. They're not having to write that check for me, but they having to write a check for somebody else. So when you take all that into consideration of what the town's writing a check for, no, I'm not number 3. And I can show that to you.
Okay.
I'll be glad to show it to you. I'm on down the line. I think it's number either 6, 7, or 8, one of those 3, one of those. So, anyway.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Brenda, you got anything else?
No, I mean, you know, we sure have asked for a
I've
lot
got
of consideration.
I got a few more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mine is this also, because you didn't consider any of those other ones. Are you considering still moving one of them? I'm not saying delete them, I'm saying move them from the convention center. Move one of them down to Lee as secretary.
We'll consider that time. I mean,
That's a consideration.
That's a consideration.
I want you to concede to that. That's one. Number 2,
You want me to say I'm gonna actively absolutely
I'd like to
do it?
say yes, because that's a concession. Then we know it's done. I've heard, I'm gonna consider, but let me finish. That's number one. Brian, how much money have you spent, how much money has been spent on blight in our budgets?
Based on the meetings? or
How much
based on
money
what's
has been
actually done?
budgeted and how much has actually been
Well,
spent?
initially, there was supposed to be 45,000.
How much is budgeted?
Our last conversation for blight, for the last budget, last year,
How much was spent, though, I asked?
I don't know, Mayor, tell me how much was spent, because I know we didn't tear down but 2 houses.
Did the city tear down 2 houses?
Well, we were involved in that action.
How are we involved in that?
Well, we had the individual citizen make sure that the property was torn down, and they did that, but in the process, we could not move the house once it was torn down, because it was a cost issue of dumping the house, taking the house to the landfill. So, you know, we don't pick houses up off the side of
Right.
the road, so that was an issue. No, Blight's been, I came to 2 or 3 meetings. It has its challenges, but it has potential. It has
But
potential.
have we spent any, are we doing anything with blight?
Bill?
Bill, go ahead,
tell
go ahead and answer that.
I'm just saying, I just wondered how much we had gotten done on
Quite
blight.
a bit. In fact, Larry Walters, our inspector, who inspects the property and does the reports, said we're almost a model pro.
Okay.
But
What does that mean?
it means we're having things that are actually getting done here, and he's very proud of how it's being done, how the process is working, how Cheryl's being very careful and going very slow. At first, I was very, had a difficult time dealing with how slow it was going.
Yeah.
But she's keeping the same liability line. The house, we had a number.
Tell them what the initial problem was, Bill. The initial problem was what?
I don't know what you.
Getting in contact with all the people who may have been
That's
involved.
still a problem, that's an ongoing problem, you're right. We have to certify delivered mail to these people, we have to get answers back, and sometimes that takes months. I don't want to get bogged down, but the quick answer is, houses have been torn down. The city has not had to contract anybody yet to do it, or have any expense to the city for the tearing down of any property yet. All the owners that have come down, all that come down, the owners have done themselves, because they've been cited as being, not in compliance with our law or ordinance, and they come to the hearing, and they know either they gotta do it, or don't go. They say, we'll do it, we'll get people to do it, they're doing it. The ones who don't clean the debris up, have to call back in to say they're gonna do it. It takes time, but we've had, I don't know how many, or 5, Mariah was here, she keeps up on how many. There are a number have come down by.
She's
the
here.
owner doing it. Now, we have several, there you is.
How many has been torn down,
How
Bob?
many have been torn out, you know?
Torn down, we have had, I would say about 2 that have been torn down.
Correct.
Out of how many?
No, that's been more than 2 now.
We've had 21 cases that the hearing
How
officers,
many, I don't know.
21 separate properties.
21 separate properties.
But now, and a lot of those have to be continued though.
There's still
So it's
in
an
the process.
ongoing process.
I would like for you to come to the
So-
hearings, and at least a couple of them, and see what the process is. Now, understand, our budget is none of our budget for tearing down anything has been spent.
That's what I mean. Is it all being legal? That was my point mainly. Was it
You
all
got to pay Larry
legal?
Walters. See,
Huh?
You see, Larry Walters is Larry Walters, his sheriff, and, well, Poware so many hats, I'm scared to say what she's doing at whatever
Take care
time.
of the
Is it-
reports and then notifying the people.
Is
Okay.
it still Larry Walters?
He does the block. He does the block. He comes for the block.
Yeah, he drives from, where does he come from, New Orleans or St. Francis?
No, he came. to
Winsboro.
yours that day, he was late getting here, but
He's from Winsboro. Winsboro. He's around Winsboro where he's from. But I mean, that's my point. Are we spending a lot on legal? Are we spending a lot on progress?
We are spending money on new Cheryl's fee within the budgeted and not overexpending that. I don't even know how we spend it all.
No, I don't think he did.
I don't think we have. We have not spent any of the, I think there's 10,000 in there for tearing down. We still have 35,000 in the grant money from the state that we can access to tear down if we ever have to do it ourselves, which we're probably gonna have to do pretty soon. There's 2 properties that we have to have looked at by contractors. We're waiting for all the foliage to get off of the growth around them so they can actually go see them, look at them, and give us quotes to tear them down. So we got 2, but that money will come back to us from the state. All we have to do is get bids, send we award it, y'all will award it, it'll go to the state will send us that money back. So there's not gonna be an expense to the city to tear anything down if we have to spend that money. That money will roll back in so we can use it again the next year. They know that and it's fine. We can
Okay.
also put it on tax roll.
And there's no time frame on that grant.
The last time I talked to them, there's plenty of time left, is what they told me. That's
All right.
2 months ago.
Okay,
And there's no jeopardy of it at this time.
all right.
It's
I mean, it's slow, it has been slow, but now every month we're meeting,
Well, it took us 6 months
process
to get
is
here.
working, people are, so far they're tearing them down still, but I think there's at least 3 that have come down. I know I can think of 3. Oh, okay, that sounds better. There's been a number of them that have come back.
The other thing, on that blighted and some of those tearing down, from what I understand, if that's a contractor, we are not, from what I understand now, are we as a city hauling that off when they get a contractor or somebody other than, they don't pay utilities, they don't pay anything, but we're hauling a house to the landfill?
The only things we're hauling off are when the individuals that own the property are doing it themselves, putting it in small enough pieces and putting it out by the street.
Are they paying any utilities or are they paying anything other than property taxes towards us getting that from there to that
House,
landfill?
but they live in other houses in the town.
But they're not for that particular house, is what I'm saying. So why would we haul that for them? If they don't pay anything into that property as far as street and sanitation, they're not paying anything for that property. Why would we even haul that for them?
Well, according to what I understand.
That's costing the city a good bit of money and other people not getting their stuff picked up because we are not getting that
I
haul.
don't think we're jeopardizing anybody else, Tommy, and the way I understand it is, there's nothing in our ordinances or our laws that I'm aware of that says we can only pick up at a city property that somebody's paying utilities.
Well, I would think so.
I don't think there is.
Okay, that's good. That's what I wanted to know, though. The other thing I'd like, the other concession I'd like to make, and we've been asking this for quite some time, I would like to put on the agenda, and it has to do with budget in the sense because it's a future budget, whether you're elected or I'm elected or who's elected or whatever, and it won't affect me, but it will affect the mayor and the police chief. I'd like you to let us have that put on the budget in the next meeting, if we can get that, because we've asked to have the salary of the mayor and the police chief put on the budget for us to review.
To review?
And to do whatever we review and make a decision. To vote. We would like
To
that put
vote
on
on
the
it.
agenda for next meeting.
I would like for you to, since it does involve me, because I do plan on running for another term, I hope I get elected.
But that doesn't mean
But
you will be elected.
I know it don't mean I will, but what I'm saying is, whoever it is gonna have a good task at hand, I mean, because it's gonna be really important. I would like to sit down with y'all and see what your ideas are, and what constitutes, where are you gonna get your figure from, you should make this, unless it's just something that you just wanna pick out.
Well,
and say-
mayors of similar
Well, it's
sizes,
based on
we've
the
done
same reason
basic
that you
studies
decided
on
we
that.
shouldn't have the
Okay,
health
now you're going
insurance.
to similar size, and if we do that, why not we do the similar size on all of our departments?
That's another question I got. Why don't we reduce maybe?
Well, we just talked about that. I mean, if we're at a very, very competitive level now on our rates, and what we got is qualified people in place, why would you want to go in and maybe,
But, I mean, I can go
What-
to all that, just
what-
answer that one question. Will you
Well-
put it on the agenda? We don't need to go into that, just will you put that as a concession on the agenda next time, next meeting, for us to review and vote?
review and vote? This requires ordinance.
Okay.
But, I mean, I think discussion before we put it in any kind of form of an ordinance ought to be first, because number one,
But
is-
I'm gonna finish my statement first, before you start talking. We have asked and it's never been put on, never been ever put on the agenda for
Thereby
months.
giving you a vote.
Okay.
Thereby giving you the most important
So you're
thing.
holding me hostage to vote on our budget to give a concession for me to take a.
I'm walking out
or
of here with
whoever-
something, I
whoever.
promise you, if I vote yes, I promise you. I'm walking out of here with something if I vote yes, that's a promise.
So, I mean, so the
And I'm not the
concession,
majority, I'm just one vote.
That's all.
I'm just one vote. I'm not keeping anybody, they can
and
vote however they
I'll
want
say
to.
this, if you, and I've made this request, y'all have requested this to be put on the agenda, and I've requested y'all to come in and sit down. What is your idea for this? I mean, what is your idea? I think that as a mayor of this town, that the people voted me in to be in this position, that y'all should come in and sit down and visit with me as a mayor and say, hey, look, Buzz, we think you shouldn't make that. We think you should make $30,000. We think you should make $40,000. We think you should make this. And give me your reasoning why behind, other than personal.
I'm gonna let her
personal-
expound on that
Okay,
because
okay,
she's
go ahead.
done more research than I have, but I just,
And I've requested Alderman Dorey come in and visit with me, and I still haven't.
No,
received
I
it.
haven't. I haven't because the last time we had a meeting, it did not go well. It didn't go well for either one of us. So I don't think it is conducive to any future relationship that we have that you and I meet behind closed doors. I don't think that that is a good thing for us to do.
Okay, well.
So, the issue is just like, you want us to come in and sit down and have a talk with you about it. We're doing that out here in the open. We're talking about several things that we have looked into. And the answer is, no, I don't think we should do it that way. No, I don't think we should do it that way. No, we've looked at, the answer from you is always no. So we could come in and we could say anything. We could say anything at all. You don't consider. You say, yeah, I'll consider it, but the consideration is always no. Saying you'll consider something is just your way of getting out of actually having to make the decision. The decision is made whenever you say, I'll consider it, because the answer is no. It always has been. That's exactly what's happened here tonight. That's what's happened in every other budget meeting. Every decision, every suggestion, everything that has been made, you have said no. I have come in and sat in with meetings with Mr. Murray and with Ms. Moak. We talked about things. They agreed it should be done. Heck, they even offered to take a reduction in salary to show good faith on the budget. They offered to do it.
Did I not do the same thing?
Did you?
Huh? Did I not put myself in this when we talked, and we talked with a lot of the aldermen? There were some of the aldermen, just maybe, I don't remember, I remember you say, well, never mind, I won't go in that thing. There were some aldermen that didn't want to cut anybody's pay. So who do I consider? There were some aldermen that said, look, I don't want anybody to lose their job, I don't even want anybody to take a pay cut. There were some aldermen that said that.
we did mention 50,000 or above.
Yeah.
We did mention 50,000 or above is the only people we considered.
But then I think also, Alderman Pro, did you not say you didn't want anybody to lose their job or anybody?
I
to
didn't
see
say
pay?
anybody, I said attrition. Move. Moving where they can work profitably to make the city run better and attrition them out. I didn't say anything about cutting a job on not one. I
But-
asked you to, Lee
but-
needs a secretary, he gets 5 calls. Convention center, I don't know how many they got, but they need to log them in so we'll know. I don't know how many IT center gets, let's log them in so we'll know. But he needs one worse than anybody, because I get people complaining to me about they can't get anybody down there at the city to talk to, at the barn, all the time.
Okay. Again, all I will say is to hold me hostage on something, and I discussed about the insurance that I don't take, to hold me hostage because, and without coming and talking to me in my office, hey, Buzz, look, y'all might be just talking about $2,000 or $3,000. I don't have any idea.
Go ahead and roll.
Huh?
Go ahead and put your thing out there on the floor, see what's gonna happen. We've been
Okay.
going back and forth. We've been here too.
Okay, we've been there, I mean, it's been, we've had discussions, any more discussion? I mean, we've had a motion, and we've had a second, and we've had discussion, is there any more discussion? No
Is
more
that a
discussion?
no to putting that on the
Huh?
agenda? Is that a no to putting that on the agenda?
I told you that that come into my office, and we'll talk about it. So, you can take that as a no or yes, but until you come in and discuss it with me, I feel like to show up in here like that, I mean.
When do we qualify?
Huh?
On the
When do we
motion that's on the
qualify
floor,
for
I
office
vote
again?
no.
Probably December of next year.
I don't wanna wait that long. I wanna get it done. And we've been asking for a year.
For the motion that's on the floor, I vote no.
Okay?
There's a motion on the floor.
Motion's on the floor
Call
for the
a
budget.
vote.
You want, let's do roll call.
Let me get it straight now. The discussion has concluded,
Yes,
and the mayor has called for the vote.
he did.
Okay.
motion before the board is to adopt the following. An ordinance adopting the operating budget of revenues and expenses for the town of Vidalia, Louisiana for the fiscal year 2018-2019. Alderman Betts,
Yes.
Alderwoman Dorey,
Yes.
Alderman Gardner,
Yes.
Alderman McCoy,
No.
Alderman Croker.
No.
3 yeas, 2 nays, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Not three.
Wait, there was another agenda item that we do not have to address that at this time. When we got the budget adopted, this was just a precautionary measure in case there was a no vote. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Motion made, second, all in favor? What?
Tell me who did it, I couldn't hear.
Me?
Put me down a second.
Everybody.
Robert gets second.
Me, Robert, and everybody.